I'm with Brian Becker, the National Coordinator for the Answer Coalition. Now, Brian, what is significant about tonight? What's going on?
Well, this is a defining moment for the Obama administration. It's Obama taking the line of the generals and the admirals, the military-industrial complex, the demand on their part to widen and expand the war in Afghanistan rather than end it. One of the great ironies is that here we are 9 months into the Obama administration, 9 months after the hated war criminal George W. Bush left Washington, and yet there are more troops combined in Iraq and Afghanistan, more U.S. NATO troops than at any time during the Bush tenure. So Bush and Cheney had the idea when they went into Afghanistan in October 2001 that it would be easy going, that they could wipe out the Taliban government. They did topple it quickly. Then they were going on to Iraq. Then they were going to go to Syria, and North Korea, and Iran. But here we are 8 years later. Instead of a war ending with a new victory for the United States, a new sort of victory for the empire, the fact of the matter is the United States cannot win. They can't win in Afghanistan. So President Obama, not having any other solution, the right one would be to leave, but no other solution, is now sending 30 or 40,000 more U.S. troops. He sent 30,000 in March. That's more than doubling the number of troops in Afghanistan than served there during the Bush administration. But it won't lead to a U.S. victory, nor do I think the generals or admirals or Obama really believe that there will be a victory. What they want to do now is avoid the perception of defeat in a very geostrategically important area, just as Nixon wanted to avoid accepting responsibility for the defeat in Southeast Asia. And for that, thousands of more young men and women are going to be sent to kill people they don't know and be killed by them, so that the political leaders and generals and admirals don't have to take responsibility for a war that should have never been waged and that can never be won and should be ended, but they refuse to do so.
I think it's fair to say, Brian, that Afghanistan has been a graveyard for imperial powers, going back to the British and Alexander the Great. The Russians were in there, and now we're in there. So what makes them think it's going to be a different ending?
Well, I think at this point, in fact, the U.S. government recognizes that there's not a different ending, that the idea that Bush and Cheney had in Rumsfeld, that they could just go in and roll over Afghanistan, has proved to be nothing but a fantasy. But the U.S. is in a dilemma. They're in a quagmire. They can't win the war, and they don't want to leave Afghanistan because that would be an admission by a great empire, or so-called great empire, that they were defeated at the hands of an armed insurgency in a dirt-poor third-world country. And so, as all empires do, rather than admit defeat, they fight on and on, using the treasured lives of their own people as cannon fodder. So I think that we are witnessing that which, as you mentioned, has been demonstrated throughout time. The Afghan people are a proud people. They're imbued with anti-colonial consciousness. In spite of the poverty of the country, they are prepared to fight and fight and fight until the foreign occupiers leave. The American Marine, the American soldier, mainly wants to go home. The people they're fighting are home, and they're going to continue to fight to defend their homes from foreign occupation.
Now, this isn't the only rally tonight in front of the White House. There are national rallies, is that correct, around the country?
There are demonstrations in scores of cities outside of West Point where President Obama is making a speech. There will be a demonstration. These protests will continue all tonight in scores of cities, and they'll continue again tomorrow in New York City and, again, all over the country. There's going to be an escalation of anti-war protests. On March 20th, Saturday, March 20th, 2010, the anniversary of the start of the Iraq War, we will have tens of thousands of people here in Washington, D.C. marching in Washington with sister marches in San Francisco and Los Angeles, demanding end the war, not in 2011 or 2015 or whenever, but to demand to end the war right now, to bring all of those soldiers home, to stop spending the money for war and occupation, and to pay reparations for those who have been so harmed by this illegal foreign occupation. So the demonstrations are proliferating. We have to do more. We have to do everything we possibly can to bring this war to an end.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you. Okay.